And then we'll pick up to the share screen.
Let's get this one back up.
Yeah,
Yes, there's a review, go to gallery.
okay,
Oops,
let me go turn on my recording.
okay.
Good evening. I want to call the joint meeting of the Riley County Planning Board, Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Since we have some public hearings tonight, need to read this information to you. The following applies to all meetings of the Riley County Planning Board, Board of Zoning Appeals. Public comments shall be limited to no more than 5 minutes for each speaker. The time limit does not include questions asked by board members. The chair reserves the right to extend speaker time should the situation warrant doing so. All comments should be directed to the board. All speakers must go to the podium to make comments stating their full name and address before beginning. Public comment shall be made only during the designated time on the agenda at any public meeting. Public comments are out of order if made outside the designated time on the agenda of the public meeting and without the speaker having first been recognized by the chair. Remarks of individual speakers shall not be simply repetitive of identical comments made by prior speakers. Verbal or visual personal attacks on private citizens, staff, or board members shall not be allowed. Speakers who violate any one or more of these rules will be asked to end their comments, and speakers or non-speakers who attend the meeting whose conduct disrupts the orderly and dignified content of any public meeting at any time will be asked by the chair to leave such meeting. All right. First on the agenda, we have open public comments. Is there anyone that wanted to speak about anything that is not on the agenda tonight during the open public comments? Okay. Next, we have the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the February 10, 2025 meeting and the report of fees for the months of February and March. Entertain a motion to approve the consent
I got a
agenda.
quick question
Yeah.
of the staff before we do that.
Yep.
On the ag exempt properties, we've already reviewed those and that's been approved on those. Okay. What, is there any mechanism for enforcing those when they say they're gonna do something and making sure they, for instance, have a cattle operation on the property?
We haven't, really ran into much issue on that, but there's a long discussion on that one as well. On the approval letter, it states that if your situation changes, it's not what you're asking, you'll need to contact us.
Okay.
And we might, which might involve either a rezoning, plating, that kind of thing, depending on what it is.
Right, and specifically, so it becomes non-ag exempt because there's a lot of tax dollars involved there.
Well, yeah, possibly,
Yeah, okay, that's all I wanted to ask. I move for approval.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass 5-0. I would now, I guess, be looking for a motion to adjourn the joint meeting of the Riley County Planning Board, Board of Zoning Appeals, and reconvene as the Riley County Planning Board.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Moving on to the Board of Zoning Appeals, switch into the Riley County Planning Board. We have first on the agenda is a public hearing at the request of Carson and Shelby Lang to rezone unplatted tract of land from agricultural district AG to SF1 single family residential.
Okay, good evening, folks. I want to make it. Carson and Shelby Lang have made application with Riley County Planning and Development requesting to rezone an unplatted tract of land from AG Agricultural District to SF1 Single Family Residential in order to build a house. The subject property is generally located approximately 550 feet west of Tuttle Creek Boulevard on the south side of North 48th Street in Wildcat Township. The 4.8 acre unplatted tract has been vacant since approximately 2018, when the home located on the property burned down. The applicant checked with staff to see if a home could be built to replace the former home. Unfortunately, because the home was destroyed or removed prior to the adoption of the land development regulations in 2022, the home itself was not made conforming and therefore could not be replaced in the current zoning district. Further, a lot of record determination found that the tract was not grandfathered in by previous regulations. Thus, a LISA was completed and scored high enough that the applicant decided to move forward with a petition to rezone the property in order to build a house. The subject property is currently zoned AG Agricultural District and has been zoned agricultural since 1958. There are no variances, conditional uses, or other special uses associated with the site. The applicant is proposing to rezone the property to a single-family residential district that will match the other single-family residential designations in the area. And that's what you see, the pine green, that's the SF1 single family. The C2 in red, that's commercial, highway business, and that right directly east of the property is a planned unit development. That's Prairie Stone. The Riley County Fire District number 1 will serve the site. The nearest county fire station is the Tuttle Creek Fire Station, located at 4120 Highway 13. The subject site is located within 5 road miles of a fire station. According to the most recent Flint Hills Joint Land Use Study, the subject site is located within the land use planning zone. Officials from Fort Riley have reported that, according to Fort Riley's Installation Operational Noise Management Plan of 2015, noise-sensitive land uses such as housing, schools, medical facilities, churches, etc., are generally acceptable within the LUPZ, what you see in blue. The property is subject to the Notice of Potential Noise Impacts from Fort Riley, Kansas Military Installation and Recommended Noise Attenuation Building Methods recorded August 17th, 2020 in the Office of the Register of Deeds. The request was reviewed with the 2015 Manhattan Urban Area Comprehensive Plan. Now, this is difficult to imagine, but the actual plan area actually extends beyond this site, which is up in your far upper left corner of the page here. The subject site is located within the northwest planning area. The future land use map indicates that the subject site is projected for rural residential use. And that's basically what that was there when the future land use map was made. According to Table 3-1 land use category definitions, rural residential lots tracts are typically between 2 and 20 acres in size, although some tracts may exceed 20. Characteristics of rural residential include typically found in rural settings on the urban fringe, lot sizes that and layout that varies, and typically not served by urban utilities. This lot will be served by rural water and an on-site wastewater lagoon. Also, large portions of the lot will remain undeveloped, reinforcing the rural character. Again, this is only a 4.8 acre tract that expands all the way up to 20. Staff analysis that the request is in conformance with the comprehensive plan. The request was also reviewed with the 2009 Vision 2025 Raleigh County Comprehensive Plan, specifically the Development Guidance System of Chapter 12. Although the subject site is located outside of a designated growth area, it scored 4,475 points on the LISA, which is upper end of the scale of moderate for development. No additional points or bonus points were factored into the analysis. The request to rezone the subject property is consistent with the goals and objectives of that plan as well. This is the site plan. Typically, a site plan is not required with a rezoning unless the proposed zoning is a planned unit development. An agricultural exemption was recently approved for the tract that abuts the subject property along the west and south property lines. The anticipated agricultural activity is a small cattle pasturing operation. In order to provide some protection from the anticipated farming practices, while still allowing the structures on the lot to be used for habitation, including the proposed residence, the applicant is seeking approval by the planning board for a reduction of the required agricultural buffer from 200 feet to 50 feet along the west property line, and a reduction from 200 feet to 100 feet along the south property line. In this case, the site plan serves to officially document the board's decision on the agricultural buffers. As noted on the site plan, structures, uses, and other setback requirements will be governed by the zoning district rather than being shown on the site plan. So this is one of those site plans that's not focused on the layout of the property, like where the house is going to go, where the garage is going, and so on. This is the really focus on these agricultural setbacks. And what that really means is subject to the details of that section of the land use or land development regulation. But what that really means is there cannot be any habitable structures, whether it be houses or for livestock within this area. Let's see if I can get this to keep up here. Here you go, it won't disappear on me. So anything that is living, in other words, cannot be housed within this area. But for example, if you wanted to build an implement shed, that implement shed could be located in this area, but subject to the setbacks of the zoning district. That makes sense. So this is in addition to the setback regulations of the individual zoning district. So a few pics of the site, standing at the intersection of North 48th Street and the existing driveway to the site, looking southwesterly across the northwest corner of the lot. This is the neighboring property. They are already getting started on the farming operation. And this is the existing driveway going into the site. You'll notice as I turn to my left, the majority of the site is grassland with a row of mature cedars along the west side of the driveway. As mentioned in your staff reports, a residence once occupied the 5-acre tract but burned down a few years ago. This is looking down the driveway. Some of the mature cedars have died and are being cleared from the site. And I just kept turning to my left. This is looking more southeasterly across the northeast corner of the subject site. There are still a few mature trees lining the east line of the property, providing some screening between the subject site and the neighboring landscaping business. That staff recommends the planning board forward a recommendation of approval of the request to the Board of County Commissioners to rezone the subject property from AG Agricultural District to SF1 Single Family Residential, as it has been determined that it meets where it is in conformance with the comprehensive plan and meets the requirements of the Raleigh County Land Development Regulations and the Raleigh County Sanitary Code. Staff also recommends the planning board forward a recommendation of approval of the company development site plan, which illustrates the agricultural buffers as submitted with the rezoning request. Something about this property, there's no requirement for a request to plat the property. It's just the rezoning. And that's all I have. If you have any questions for me.
Any specific reason why we went with 50-foot buffer on the west and 100 on the south?
Yes, actually. In the past, the planning board has observed that, if it's depending on the nature of the agricultural activity occurring on the neighboring property. If it's crops and things like that, then usually that 200-foot sets because of overspray, and drift and that kind of thing. If it's livestock, that's not so much a concern, as long as the fence holds up. As far as that goes over here, it's not anticipated that the neighboring operation is going to occur within this area. It's simply going to be a driveway area for them to build their house here and then pasture down here.
Okay,
That's kind of why the reduction here. And the land development regulations allow for the reduction down to 50, no less than.
all right.
So, but they do want to give us a little bit. And then again, it's a small site. It's difficult to, with other setbacks involved, it's difficult to kind of, yeah. Now, we would like a little bit of distance between them and the neighboring commercial landscaping property. So that's kind of where that's at.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Does the applicant have anything they wish to present to the board?
No.
All right. Are there any proponents within 1,000 feet that wish to speak? Moving on, any opponents within 1,000 feet that want to speak? All right,
A quick question. Could we do 50 all the way around?
where'd Bob go?
Is it too late to ask for that? I didn't have a question.
They, do they need to come up and ask your question at the microphone?
And it, or it has the board. Probably over here.
If we could do 50 feet on both sides. If it's approved by you guys, I guess, so.
Well, no, no, this-
Okay.
so-
Typically, isn't the reasons for reduction topography, weather patterns, specific weather, or ag commodity and type of use? Aren't those the four main reasons why you would reduce the?
Consideration of the neighboring, if there's an existing berm, if they're planning on building a physical berm and then landscaping it and do all that, but distance by itself has been known to work too. So. And by the way, what she's asking the board is, yes, the board can recommend that the agricultural buffer maintain in place the 200-foot requirement, or as proposed, or negotiate for even more of a reduction, allow more developability of the site. And the site plan just simply gets redone as per the board's recommendation.
All right, nobody wants to speak in the public hearing, I guess. I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All right, now for our discussion period, I guess we've got choices of 200, 150.
We want to vote on that first.
Oh, okay, sorry. Thank you.
Aye.
All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Love it. All right. Now time for discussion.
Yeah, any agricultural enterprise, especially, well, not just especially, but depending on the size of it, cattle and all that, you want to have a bigger buffer. There's a good reason for that. Depending on what they're gonna do right next to you, and you don't know what they're gonna do. So I would propose that we keep the buffer where it's at right now. And if the ag enterprise does not develop into something that impacts on that, they can come in later and ask for a variance on that. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, and they can still build a
Yeah,
shed
they
or
can
a
build a
barn,
shop,
or
a
something that's not
shed.
habitable.
Yeah. Anything that doesn't house animals or people.
I firmly believe that the buffer is there for a reason,
Uh-huh.
unless there was, like I said, one of the main reasons to reduce the buffer.
Right.
But I don't see a reason. especially because property sells, the next owner may not be as going.
It's closed.
Okay.
Got anything? I'll say with staff recommendations as presented.
150. Yeah, I think I'm okay with the 100 and the 50, just because it's not a huge tract of land, and they could fit barns and things in that, with the sheds. They're, in that 100 or the 50.
What's the reason for the reductions to accommodate for?
It's not a very big lot. That's why they,
Small.
that's why I asked the question earlier, because 50 is pretty narrow between an ag enterprise and with them running the driveway down there, not having cattle right up against the west side, but that's not true of the south side.
Next, with it 4.8 acres.
Yep, it's pretty small.
Mhm.
Lots bigger than a lot in town, but it's still pretty small for a lot. With all the other single family residences around there, I don't have any problem with it right there in that location.
Any other? comments? Motion, rezoning.
Let's see, what do we got? I move to forward the recommendation of approval of the Board of County Commissioners of Riley County to rezone the subject property from AG Agricultural District to SF1 Single Family Residential, along with the associated development site plan.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You can say aye.
I did.
I vote. And Bob has his,
Public service announcement?
yes, public service announcement.
So the Board of County Commissioners will hear this request on May 1st, Thursday, by the way, May 1st, at 9:45 in these chambers. That's
All right. Now we have a public hearing at the request of David A. and Marcy B. Uphoff, petitioners and owners for a residential use designator country estate. Guess we will open the public hearing and hear what Bob has to say.
Once again, good evening, folks. David and Marcy Uphoff have made application with Riley County Planning and Development requesting a residential use designator or country estate for an unplatted tract of land in order to build a house. The subject site is generally located approximately 2,100 feet east of Conway Road on the north side of Stockdale Park Road in Grant Township. The subject property consists of the entirety of a 93-acre parent tract. The applicant wishes to build a non-agricultural residence while keeping the majority of the site in agricultural use, and possibly cattle, and open space. Thus, the applicant is seeking approval for a residential use designated country estate rather than attempting to rezone the property to a residential district. The site, as well as all the properties surrounding it, zoned AG agricultural district shown here in gray, Incidentally, the residential use designator option is intended to provide a flexible alternative for building non-farm related residences in the agricultural district. Thus, they are only permitted within the agricultural district. There are no variances, conditional uses, or special uses associated with the site. Riley County Fire District number 1 will serve the site. The Riley Fire Station located at 327 Main in the city of Riley will serve as the first responder. The site is within 5 road miles of a fire station on a paved road. According to the most recent Flint Hills Joint Land Use Study, the subject site is located within the land use planning zone. Officials, as mentioned earlier with the other request, officials from Fort Riley have reported that according to Fort Riley's installation operational noise management plan of 2015, noise sensitive land uses such as housing, schools, medical facilities, churches, etc., are generally acceptable within the LUPZ. Property is subject to the noise notice of potential noise impacts from Fort Riley, Kansas military installation and recommended noise attenuation building methods recorded August 17th, 2020 in the Office of the Register of Deeds. So going on to, I'm not sure if it's easier to see this way. I can't move that out of the way as much as I'd like, but this is the way it is. These are the conditions of approval in the zoning regulations for our country estate. So these are the standards that must be met before they can even be recommended to this board. So the first, the country estate lot shall be 20 acres or larger. That's by design. Some people want to have larger acres for horses and things that you can't have in the city. And or these smaller tracts like the one you saw or heard earlier, that's very difficult to have a lot of horses on. So on. That's why these exist. But with that, there's other conditions that have to be met. Approval shall only be granted following an analysis using the development guidance system. The determination that the proposal is compatible with surrounding uses by using the following criteria. The site shall not be located within the state required minimum separation distances from a permitted confined animal feeding operation. As a CAFO, it's a feedlot permitted by the state, defined and by the state and through statute. The site shall not be located within the noise zone 2 as identified by Fort Riley. I just mentioned that they are not within that zone. The site shall not score strong finding for preservation using the land evaluation site assessment system. This is the one residential use designator that is subject to the LISA. The other 3 are not. The site should be located in an area where 20-acre home site parcels already exist within a quarter of a mile from the site, which is a bit interesting because it goes off the appraiser's classification, whether it is a straight up residential or farm residential. If it's farm residential, that's not the same thing as this. So you might have a lot of houses in the area, a lot of 20-acre tracts, but if they got the farm residential classification, they don't count. So that's kind of interesting too. So you can't just plop these anywhere. And so there happens to be one right next to it. Moving on with the standards. Residential use designator for our country estate is limited to 1 per original parent tract. This is established as original parent tract. In other words, you can't have one and then section off and build another house or even try to get a second house through this mechanism on the same tract. Country estate parcels are not required to be platted. Anything larger than 20 acres is the threshold. Do not require platting. Must have adequate frontage on a public road and must meet the minimum sanitary code requirements, both of which have been established. An agricultural protection easement as specified in section 21A shall be filed with the Register of Deeds. Site plan is required as outlined in section 3.17 site plan of the Riley County Land Development Regulations. These are the requirements that are necessary. This is the site plan. The applicant plans on developing the site with a home and accessory structures with the expressed purpose of continuing to utilize the majority of the site for agricultural pursuits, maintaining an agricultural buffer to the active farming operation north of the site. The east half of the site is an open drainage area, while the west side of the tract is primarily a heavily wooded ravine that buffers the tract on the east. Both of those count as buffers, agricultural buffers. The driveway will consist of all-weather surfacing and have direct access to Stocktail Park Road. As noted on the site plan, the proposed driveway will be subject to the minimum standards of the driveway standards in the unincorporated area of Riley County, Kansas. The proposed location of the home and accessory structure heeds the rural design guidelines found in the Vision 2025 Comprehensive Plan, as there is a clear effort to blend in with the existing landscaping and topography while keeping the majority of the site in its natural state. The request was reviewed with the 2009 Vision 2025 Raleigh County Comprehensive Plan, specifically the Development Guidance System of Chapter 12. The first element of the DGS is conformance to the goals, objectives, and policies of the plan. And the goal for residential, as you see here, is to allow for the development of a diversity of housing type, sizes, and price levels to meet the changing needs of all county residents. Allow for adequate amounts of single-family housing in suitable locations throughout the county. There's ways through the site plan, through this mechanism, to obtain that suitableness within certain areas of the county. So the goal for rural character also is to promote the development that is compatible with the rural character of Raleigh County. Promote compliance with the rural design guidelines and encourage voluntary adherence to the rural design guidelines, which is happening. So the next element, or the next factor in the DGS here is the future land use map. Going to the future land use map north, found in the plan, the subject property is not located within a designated growth area. That's what it's important. You're going to utilize this mechanism to make it compatible with the surrounding area. This is trying to move this out of the way here. Move it up here. Okay, so this is the lease. So this is where the scoring chart is. According to the final score of the LISA analysis, property achieved 3,389 points, which is good for moderate for development. Well, actually, it's more of moderate for preservation, but it just misses the halfway point. Yes, no bonus points were factored into the analysis. The applicant expressed the following as far as a hardship though. And again, this is if the applicant feels or believes that there would be an unnecessary hardship incurred if the request were to be denied. And he expressed it in this way: we have purchased 93 acres to build our home on. If denied, we will have paid for the land, but will not have a place to build a home. Let's back over here. So this is the staff analysis in my review. A site plan has been submitted as per the minimum requirements of the Raleigh County Land Development Regulations, exhibiting how the site will also be used for agricultural purposes. So this is not completely converting the entire 93-acre tract to something non-agricultural. The required agricultural buffer has been included to minimize conflicts with neighboring agricultural activity, which by the way, has not been confirmed that there is an active operation. It's a supposition, and the applicant felt that, let's go ahead and put that on there anyway. So again, voluntarily meeting the rural guidelines. It is not anticipated that the granting a country estate designation will be contrary to the goals, objectives, and policies of the plan. I feel that with the request and what has been offered so far, is furthering the goals and objectives and policies of the plan. So this is the board that decides this particular request. It does not go on to the Board of County Commissioners. Okay? Staff recommends the planning board approve the request for residential use designator country estate as it has been determined to meet the minimum requirements of the Riley County Land Development Regulations and Sanitary Code. That's all I have. Do you have any questions from me? I had to field those.
Any questions? Sure. All right, does the applicant have anything they wish to present to the board?
No.
All right, is there any proponent within 1,000 feet that would like to speak? All right.
Hi, Leanne Seiler, Hodgman County, Kansas, Western Kansas. And I don't necessarily know that I'm a proponent or an opponent, but we have the bordering land there, and I just had questions. So I think it would be a beautiful place for a home. I'm not against that. But my questions would be how it would affect the water on our property. We do right now have at least for cattle, a cow-calf operation, and in the future, we intend to not lease it for my son to have his cow-calf there. And so we just wanted to make sure it's not going to affect our water. When my mother passed and the land was divided, a fence went in and actually went right between the water trough is on my side of the fence, but the actual spring is on the other side of the fence. And so that's our concern.
Okay,
Does Bob have any information about that? I don't.
but still, if they build there, they have to meet the sanitary code, which means that there can't be fluff runoff that will contaminate water wells or anything else.
And I'm not really worried about runoff. You're much lower than we are, where I'd be more worried just to make sure that we maintain water source. The way it was kind of divided up. Last year was the first year that I ever remember it ran dry. And maybe everything in Riley County did. I'm from Western Kansas, so we run dry all the time. But that was a concern. So again, I'm not
Yes,
against
it's
it.
dry around it.
I just had questions. Thank you.
Can't answer those.
Maybe a bit more of a watershed.
Yeah,
question.
I think that's outside the scope of our board. All right, let's see, that was, is there anybody else, any opponents or anything? Okay. All right, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Oh, you got your hand
I
up.
apologize.
Yeah, go up to the,
No, this might already be stated, I just don't know. Simeon Seiler, her son. I live here in Manhattan and do have vested interest out there eventually, nothing immediately. Is there regulations on when we say agricultural use? Is there regulations on what that means? Does that qualify 5 chickens? Does that qualify, I mean, what qualifies for agricultural use, continued that, for that? And is there, the big thing I guess I would be concerned about is what's running next to that. And obviously people who raise cattle understand that if all of a sudden there's 4 buffalo over there, there's other concerns that we have. I don't think that's his plan by any means. I don't think it is, Dave. But it would be concerning to the neighboring property on what we need to do and if there's like further restrictions for easement there. So.
I can help answer that question.
Yes.
that'd be great.
Yeah, please.
First of all, with this, there's a reason why it doesn't get rezoned.
Mhm.
It still has the underlying zoning of ag. Agricultural uses and structures are exempt through Kansas statute from zoning regulations. So we don't have any control over that. What you see in the land development regulations as far as residential livestock, that falls underneath the residential zoning districts. And what's allowed in the residential, not in ag. This, if they want to go full-blown ag, there's nothing we can do to stop them.
That's a state level issue. correct?
It's it's our issue kind of thing, but we cannot
But
govern.
the state law says
Absolutely.
we cannot do anything about ag.
Yeah.
So it's a
That's-
state
that's-
issue.
Our hands are.
Because our hands are tied.
Yeah.
It's either ag or it's residential or it's a development plat or whatever.
Okay.
So they can put, if they want to put 16 buffalo on there, I wouldn't do it, but.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't
Hell of a
think that's
fence to keep 16 buffalo.
I don't think that's his plan.
I don't think that's Dave's plan either.
I wouldn't want my neighbors putting 16 buffalo on.
Yeah.
I understand.
Want to explain to me the beef against buffalo?
I'm kind of curious myself.
One, they carry some diseases that aren't good for cattle.
Yeah.
And two, they are hard to keep on a property. I mean, you really have to build tough fences. So it's a big investment to go into the buffalo business, even the beefalo business.
Same with cows, Bob. Wouldn't want 100 cows or 150 or 200 cows.
Even that might be a few too many on that property. But anyway,
In other words, this action doesn't preclude
right.
that, the ability to do that. So,
We heard from everybody, any other comments? Let's entertain motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Any discussion on the residential use designated?
no, it's not a residential use, it's an estate. I don't have a problem with it.
I do not either.
No,
Since it remains agricultural
Yep.
and has to meet all the other requirements, so.
you want to make a motion?
Sure, if nobody else wants to read it. I move to approve the request for residential use designator as it has been determined that it meets the requirements of the Riley County Land Development Regulations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item,
I do need you all to sign this.
next item on the agenda is, the agricultural exemption process, the need for an additional member from the board.
currently we have Eric, and we need someone else to volunteer to review
You can excuse me.
Applications.
Stick around.
for agricultural exemptions.
I think they might have a question. You look like you had a question? No?
You-
Oh, okay.
And you don't have to stay and listen to this, it's just board business. We're done with the rest of
They're
it,
gone.
unless you want to stick around and look at that crowd go.
Wow.
They don't want to listen
Really?
to us do board business, I
really-
can't believe it.
They wanted to go.
You look like you had a question.
They're all my fans. Hey. So we need another volunteer, and essentially, when we get applications for agricultural exemptions, there's a few different types of it. Some involve a house, some involve just the subdividing of land that drops below that 20 acre threshold. Some involve both. Some involve an additional residence through the agricultural mean. So. And Eric's now pretty much witnessed all of them so far.
To the expert.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but there's some pretty strange stuff that goes through there. You have to really think about it and read through
So. And when, not all at once,
it. No, they trickle in, so.
You're raising your hand.
I'll do it.
all right, Jack.
I was like, I see a hand raised.
They give you some light reading to put you to sleep.
Um, Do we need to make a motion to appoint Jack or just, you know, Bob, do we need like an official motion to, or just accept his volunteering?
I don't
This
know.
is Amanda. I don't think we need anything
I don't think
formal.
so.
Yeah,
Thank
I was
you.
wondering if we could hear you. There you are.
I didn't wanna
Hey,
not
speakers
get
work.
it done right.
Thank you.
All right, well, moving on to Amanda, we've got the comprehensive plan update.
So I'm not really going to present. My report's kind of self-explanatory. So I had oral surgery last week, so I can't talk very well. But if you folks have any questions, happy to answer, or you can always email me or call me or come visit. But yeah, just wanted to keep you all updated as to what we're doing right now.
Is there a schedule for meeting with all the entities that you haven't met with yet?
We're still working on that. There's nothing set in stone. We're still working on connecting with the people who we haven't been able to talk with yet. And so those will just be, those meetings, if you will just kind of be made based on when we hear back and what folks' availability is.
Okay, thank you.
Amanda,
Sure.
I had one question.
Yeah.
I approached, City of Manhattan and Potawatomi County for hard copies of their plans. And they don't have hard copies. They only online. If I want one, I have to pay 50 cents a page to have them copied.
Yeah.
And I don't have 3 laptops. I don't even have 3 computers. I have one, but it's impossible to open them and compare them simultaneously online, one at a time. So is there some way we can officially request from those other entities hard copies of their plans so that we could keep them here and have a look at them, check them out like the library so we can compare them?
I'm
I
sure
think-
we can make something work. Sure.
I think it'll be really interesting to have a comparison of what their plans are and who thinks they've got the leg up on a better plan. I'd sure like to know what their plans are. And I know from scuttlebutt on the street that Manhattan has certain things in their plan that might really not be consistent with what our plans are.
Yeah, and we'll definitely make sure those areas that we share jurisdiction over, if you will, the Manhattan urban area, and then of course their comp plan boundary. We'll of course ensure that we are consistent with all of that. We don't want to be in conflict, and of course neither do they. And we have several members of City of Manhattan on our comprehensive plan committee. So just helping us review all of that, and again, making sure we're consistent. Now with Potawatomi County, obviously everything's regional, but we don't have jurisdiction in Pot County, and of course they don't have within us, and so there's really no overlap there, if you will. That doesn't mean we can't reach out to them and see if we can, get something for you folks to look at if you'd like. But that is a bit of the difference between Pot counties and the City of Manhattan. City of Manhattan, of course, is mostly in Riley County, so we'd have that overlap with them.
Thank you.
Amanda, is there anything that you see here that we need to go over, these documents here or anything? They're included in your packets, I believe, right? And did you have any questions on these items that were in your packet? Okay.
The electronic packet I read 2 days ago and reviewed again today. Yeah, no questions.
And you can make copies and send to your friends and.
Yeah.
So they can be bored too.
I did have one item to mention is the May meeting. We don't have any agenda items, so we will not be having a May meeting. Take that off
Good.
your calendar.
We're too efficient. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Or nobody's building or putting houses up?
There's a lot of people coming in and and talking to us about what they want to do, and some stuff is around the borders, some is in the Manhattan urban area, some of it's outside. It's a mixed bag right now, all over the place, but yeah, there's some stuff coming in, for sure. We're gonna be busy this year, especially with the comprehensive plan stuff. Board really gets involved. So,
I may be on the agenda coming up soon too, so I might need a little guidance on that.
I'm sorry, what,
I may be on the agenda too. Pretty soon.
pardon me?
No.
Oh, you do something. Oh, fantastic. I hope you made friends on the board.
Madam Chairwoman, I move we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Amanda.